everybody. Nice to see you all again. If we haven't met before, my name is Sharon Chaden Glass, and we are in the Idea Networking session for Instructional Designers and Educators Alliance. I have been kind of absent on social media the last month. Unfortunately, my mother passed away in the middle of last month, and I have been through just so much with, not just the grief, but like all of the financial stuff and, family and it's just a lot. So I had to kind of disappear for a month. Been hard, but I am very much looking forward to some normal things that don't involve all the heavy emotions. We have two speakers today. We have Erin Rendos, and I'm looking for her name. I don't see her. Hopefully she shows up. Her name is Kelsey Bake. I think Bakke. I wasn't able to what's the word? Confirm. I can't access words. I wasn't able to double check that that's what her last name is, but hopefully she's able to join us. And then we also have a guest speaker that we had a couple months ago, Steve Corney, and he's going to talk about a mentoring program that he's starting up. So as our guest speakers talk, please write down your questions, and you can put them in the chat. You can ask in breakout rooms, or you can ask at the end when we do a whole group Q&A. I am going to drop the agenda into the chat in case you want that. And I'll be handing it over to Erin. Erin, are you ready?
I'm ready when you are.
All you.
Hi, folks. I'm Erin Rendos. I was in Sharon's, I don't even know when that was. Was that April, maybe June session? And that's when I was making that transition into instructional design. So kind of give you a background of where I've been, where I'm going. I was a teacher for 19 years, public education in Pennsylvania. I taught elementary ed for the first 8 or 9 years. For the past 11 years, I transitioned to the high school, secondary, business, computer science, tech, and I kind of exhausted my options with where I wanted to go in education, and probably like a lot of you who are, if you're currently in education, you know the status of education. So I decided to make the jump from education to instructional design. I didn't even know probably a year ago what instructional design even was. Through a couple friends and a little bit of research, I joined an instructional design academy in January. Finished that right around mid to late May. And then I was like nervous about making that jump. Should I do it? Should I not? I knew what I wanted to do. So I started applying, building my portfolio, resumes, all that good stuff that goes along with making that jump from teaching to instructor design. After plenty of interviews, some went places, others did not. In probably about early June, I got into an interview. I was telling Sharon right before I jumped on, I had 7 interviews, the most intense interviews I've ever had in my life with one company, and then a follow-up negotiations interview. And then currently I am in that position. It's Ivory Technologies, where I create virtual reality learning for electricians and electrician apprenticeships. So I'm kind of building that network of training it's more not like, what do I want to call it? Like, it's not straight app based. It's not separate from anything else. It's actually infused into their current curriculum through the NTE. And they go from classroom to VR, and then they go to lab. So it's actually a progression that we're kind of building here in my current role. It was a hard process. I can answer a lot of questions that you might have. I know everybody's in their different spot and where you want to go or where you want to get, but If anybody has any questions or anything I can answer along the way, please do not hesitate to ask.
I have a question, Aaron. So I'm just curious about these 7 interviews. Can you just kind of as just tell us like how do they group it? Was it like, okay, here's HR person, here's like hiring manager, or like how did they, like who were the people in each of these stages that you talked to?
So yeah, it wasn't progressive because there was like a lot of folks on vacation at different times, so I had to kind of wait. The first one was with a recruiter, one of the most nervous interviews I've ever been in, just because it was my first one, and I highly suggest getting like I guess a practice interview out of the way. Apply to companies that you have no intention of even working for, so you can get that practice and get that repetition of how you want to answer questions down. I did that, and even though you prep as much as you can for that, it's hard to figure out what they're going to ask, what they're going to come from. I had like 52 questions that I built in a Word document and the answers that I wanted to go with, and some of them were on there, some of them weren't. But overall, like after the recruiter interview, it went really well. It was like 3 or 4 basic questions that you had to get through to get to that next level. And then it went to the team that I'd be working with next, which normally it would go HR and then the team after that. But so I went to the team, had a lot of questions. They came with a lot of questions. I'm the only instructional designer with the company, so it was really nice because they didn't know anything about instructional design, and I could kind of speak freely about what I could do, what I was capable of, and using my newly acquired instructional design jargon to help my cause. So once the team was kind of, meeting after that and satisfied, I guess, with my interview, I met with another interview with the recruiter, went back to the recruiter, and then the recruiter put me on to, it was the head of HR, and then it was the head of talent development, and then it was the director of marketing. And then I went back to the team, and then I had a negotiation meeting after that. So all those meetings, some were the same type of questions. Others were just a conversational type, get to know you session. So I didn't know what was coming my way. Eventually I was just like, just whatever, ask me whatever you want. Here I am. This is what I can offer your company. So yeah, it was a long drawn out process, but in the end, I think in my head, they hired the best person, and I felt really confident that I made it through like all 7, and beat out everybody else.
Nice. Just for a contrast or a comparison, I had 2 interviews. I had with the team that I would work with, and I had my supervisor, and then it was over. So there's a pretty wide range, I think. I don't see Kelsey. I don't know I hope she's okay. I hope nothing happened. I don't see her on the list. So Steve, do you want to talk?
Yeah, if you need me to be a filler, I can absolutely tap dance and fill.
Don't tap dance
Aaron.
Too much. All right, it's all up to you.
Aaron, that's brutal, dude. Well done. Hey, well done on just surviving. That's unbelievable. In stark contrast, I hired a new designer last week, and we played pool, and they beat me 5 games to 3, and that was it. They got the job. That was the interview. Maybe we do it differently in Oz, but I don't know. But I absolutely appreciate and feel the challenge that's going on, and it's really hard when you have to just keep showing up with the promise of something, and it takes a really strong, resilient mindset. So well done. Hey, Marsha's in the house. Good to see you, mate. Folks, my name's Steve. I come from a land down under, and there's something about a Vegemite sandwich in that song. But ultimately, I run an agency. So I'm an agency dude. I started out as a face-to-face trainer, and then I taught myself how to do all of the cool online stuff. Like I learned Moodle. Moodle was cool when I started out. Then real online education came out, and then Articulate started. So I self-taught all of my tools. I didn't do an education or a master's in instructional design or learning or anything like that. It's all sort of happened as a result of just being willing to learn and apply myself to various aspects. So I'm really privileged to be able to employ designers and come at it from that employer perspective. And another superstar, Nicole's on the line as well. Hey mate, good to see you. What's really important from my perspective, and what I've identified over the years of recruiting and hiring and bringing in designers, especially non-traditional instructional designers. So what I mean by that is I knock back a lot when we do our drives for designers, and it's usually because we get projects that we need to bolster our team for. I'll be looking for non-instructional design trained instructional designers, because all the habits that get formed while you work in instructional design elsewhere, I have to usually unravel and sort of inject our style of doing things. So again, I think that's really important to recognize and call out, is that sometimes it's better to come from a place where you don't know the ins and outs and the full methodologies and all of the theory. And then you can be super malleable and pliable and willing to apply yourself to your new environment, as long as you have some basic understanding of how to use some tools and how to plan out a program and all that sort of stuff, which as teachers, you've got that in absolute spades. Now, the challenge that I find is we get into the interview, and Aaron, this may, you mentioned you use some instructional design jargon, which is fantastic. We love it when people throw out the cool words to us. It makes us feel special. But during the interview, it usually goes like this for a non-experienced or a new to industry instructional designer, learning designer. You'll have a portfolio because you may have done like the IDLE course, you may have done Devlin's program, you may have done something. And during that program or during your quest to become new to industry, you've created a portfolio, and you've created a portfolio based on something that you're passionate about, there's nothing wrong with that. But the challenge with that is that you are the subject matter expert, you're the stakeholder, you're the client, you're the person in charge of time, you're also the designer, which means it's just riddled with bias and difficulty for you, especially when I ask you these questions in the interview. So insert human here. How did you manage your time when you built this project with your clients or anything like that? And then it's sort of a stumped answer. And it usually is, I was the client and I was the designer. Okay, cool. From a subject matter expertise perspective, how did you interact and how did you extract that knowledge from your subject matter expert? I was the subject matter expert too. Okay, no worries. What about the review process? So how did you manage client feedback, and how did you end up choosing Storyline over all the other tools that exist for the user that's going to consume this learning? Well, I'm also the learner as well, and I was the designer, and I only have Storyline as a free trial. So that's why I did that. Okay, it's really hard for me then to go, this person's got the thought process right. The better way to answer that question would be to say, I had the choice of Storyline, Rise, How To, Chameleon, 7 Taps. However, during the discovery process of the project, I identified that my learners or my users were company workers. However, they were consuming most of their learning on the job, which means I needed to consider mobile friendly or remote learning options. Now, straight away, Storyline is no longer relevant. And that's why I chose 7 Taps as a tool. If you don't know what these tools are, just check them out. MicroCon's on tomorrow for 7 Taps. So you should check that out tomorrow or Friday. I chose 7 Taps because it's mobile friendly, it's quick, bite-sized, easy to manage. And as a result, the learner engagement was increased compared to previous Storyline projects that they've had. Now, whether that happened or not, that's a question of ethics. But if I have someone who can answer that question but has less capability in a design perspective, I'll choose that person because their thought process is much more in the pocket of what I can do, because I can help you with your design. I can fix that. I can support you with my other designers to do that. So I think that's really important. just finally, and then you can ask me questions or come and hang out in the breakout rooms. If I think that's what we're doing, Sharon. Yeah, we're going to breakout rooms in a second.
Yeah, we're going to do some breakout rooms. Yep.
Oh, yes. Yes, sweet. So in order to solve this problem, I sat down and I created the greatest acronym of all time, the Learn Awesome, which is my agency, mentor program, LAMP. And I pumped the air when I wrote it down. I'm like, yes, it says a word. Fantastic. We've partnered with a company called the Life Skill Academy, and they're some friends of mine, and we've donated our agency to be their learning designers for free. And they offer life skill education for free to anyone who wants to consume life skill education. So that's really cool. We have a client. We have a real client, and we have a list of programs or projects, real projects that this client wants us to build for them. Now, we could build it, or we could then pile this into a mentoring program, which Marsha and Nicole are on board with, and they start on the 19th of September. We can pile that client, that project, that real thing with mentoring from my agency into the LAMP program. And yeah, that's what we're kicking off in a couple of weeks' time. So if getting real experience, having someone like me or an agency to support you to build a real project for a real client that's going to, help in the life skill education area, if that's something that is of interest to you, or it's something that you're struggling to have some real experience on your resume, then yeah, I'd love to answer any questions that you've got in the breakout rooms, or if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're more than welcome to hang out there, and I'll put a link to the program address. But yeah, I think for me, it's really important that there's an opportunity for you to. I know you've got the skills, but there's an opportunity for you to be able to get battle-tested real-world experience without having to, sit through bucket loads of interviews and stress, so that when you get to the interview and they ask you the question like, hey, why did you choose this tool over this? You can say, well, I worked with Steve, and as a result of working with Steve, he made me question which tool we did. So we had a discussion over about an hour. And as a result of that discussion, we chose this tool over this. And then for you, the lights are going off in the recruiter or the hiring manager's head going, this person knows what they need to do. And if that helps you get a job, then for me, that's the greatest thing that I could do to give back to this amazing community is something like that. So yeah, that's me. Super excited to hang out with y'all today.
Did I get your website right this time? Because I know last
Yeah,
time.
you did, dude. You did. Fun story about that. A client, I think I said last time I was here, a client wouldn't work with us because we didn't have a website, because we got all of our work through word of mouth. And so I built an anti-website, and that's an anti-website. The tone of voice is exactly what that anti-website is all about. I'll put another address in there, which is the LAMP program. It's got a bit of info in there for everyone as well.
Good. All right.
Oh my gosh. Nope.
Go.awesome.
No. Go.learn. I'm over caffeinated, as you can tell. Go.learnawesome.com.au. That's it. Done.
Okay.
Marsha and Nicole, I promise I'm much better at learning design.
That's awesome. I still don't, I don't see Kelsey, so I hope she's okay. Not a huge, I mean, of course I would like her to be here, but I'm not super upset at her for not being here, because sometimes stuff happens, life happens, right? If we've never met before, I'll just briefly tell you that if you want to talk to me, I currently work in higher education. I was an ESL instructor in intensive English programs for a long period of time, like 13 years, and transitioned into instructional design in higher education. And now that's what I do. I work with the media production team at my community college, and we create videos and podcasts and interactive graphics and talk with faculty to find out, what do you really need in your classroom? I know you're saying a video, but maybe it's something else. So if you want to chat with me, I'm going to stay out here in the main room, and I'm going to open up the breakout rooms for you to either talk to Steve or Aaron, or you can stay here and chat with me. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Before we get into the whole group Q&A, I want to let you know our next time that we're going to meet is Tuesday, October 4th, 7 to 8 p.m. And I'll drop the registration link into the chat. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Well, I wasn't, Aaron, I wasn't able to get to the breakout room, but how did you get into VR? How does one get into VR? Or was it just for this role that they kind of said, hey, Aaron, get into VR?
That's a good question. So it was actually in the job description. We actually outsourced the development part, but are going to bring it in-house soon. So I'm actually learning Unity development software. So the VR part, they did the first section of this without an instructional designer, and I think they quickly found out that the content just didn't follow along and align with certain standards or certain criteria that the electrical apprenticeships wanted in their training. So I actually work with 2 engineers and a technical writer. So now we kind of have everything in place. We're creating storyboards and aligning those, talking with subject matter experts and making sure that everything's on point for the developers, which goes to next. So I kind of work with the electrician apprenticeship folks and the developers. I'm the in between for those folks.
Very cool. I mean, I've been seeing these Oculus ads for Meta's Oculus, and they're promoting it as like, technicians of the future will learn to fix a virtual engine. Like that's the tag in the ad. And I was like, is that really, is that something like IDs of the future will need to at least know something about? What do you think?
I would say almost a lot of the 2D training is probably eventually going to go to the 3D virtual reality training or augmented reality. I know the learning retention is a lot greater in virtual reality than it is like a 2D course online. I know our training, it's so cool that you can actually like pick these things up and do the right thing, and I know I've created a bunch in storylines, so it's kind of like drag and drop, but you can pick up and drop. It's a whole different experience from start to finish of what you really want them to do in the end. Like it's hard to explain until you put an Oculus set on. I know our subject matter expert, it took me like 3 weeks to actually get him an Oculus set and put it on. And when he did, he totally changed his kind of tune with me. And he's like, oh, now I get it. So.
My boss, so I'm in a community college in learning technologies department, and my boss is very into VR. And so we're actually piloting an augmented reality app just so we can get the workflow done and figure out how, what, the different stages for developing an AR app are going to be and who's going to do what. So we are moving in that direction in a community college, and there's a lot of ways that VR can be helpful. Right now, what we're doing that's kind of approaching that learning space is we have 360 photography and 360 video that we're trying out, and we have a 360 simulation that you can load into a VR device for nursing simulation. I think it's occupational therapy or something like that, where you kind of go into this environment and you kind of look around for hazards or obstacles in an apartment. So you, as the occupational therapist, you go in and you look around for the stuff that you're supposed to point out to the client, like, this is not good, you're going to trip over this, or you need to get rid of this. So because we're a community college, we have a lot of, vocational programs. There's a lot of opportunity for VR, AR, and 360 simulations in what we're doing. So I think that the growth in those areas is just going to continue.
Yeah, that's super cool from a commercials perspective. And this is maybe like we were talking in our little breakout about just reframing some of the ways that you present your information. But if from a cost perspective of training, so VR's a shiny object, AR's a shiny object. You got to be careful because like office workers might be like, hey, I want a VR project. No, you don't, dude. You need a micro learning and you need a cheat sheet. It's a 10-minute job and I'll charge you a couple of grand for it. Done. However, like we've worked with big agencies who are doing like firefighting VR simulations. Now it's really expensive to burn down a building to train firefighters, right? So being able to get 80% of the way there with a virtual reality sim means that they can pump more people through, and then they're coming to the real time where they have to burn the building down to finally tick the box for that they're competent. Same with electrical apprentices. I'd imagine if it's the same as in Australia, my brother's an electrician and teacher in this space, they have to actually clip the red wire at some point in real world. But the more practice you can get without having to burn materials or, that sort of thing, that's where VR and AR really come into play. So I'm stoked to hear, Aaron, that the company is smart enough to not just load that onto one instructional designer and say, you're the engineer, the subject matter expert, the coder, it's awesome when you see a company that goes, instructional design is a superpower in its own right. And we need your superpowers to enable the rest of these people in the Avengers to, save the world. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Super, super cool.
Other questions? We have about 5 to 8 minutes left. New year, new academic year. Who is still teaching? Who's currently in the classroom? Yep. How did it feel going back? It was a little hard. Erica's got her hand up. Erica, ready for you.
I was just raising my hand. I'm still in the classroom.
Oh, okay, I got you. Erica's like, no, not that kind of raising my
It's
okay. Yeah, it's hard.
It's like a little strange now that I'm like, I kind of don't want to be here. But I still really like teaching, and there's still
sure.
I mean, the nice thing is I'm not, I'm on like some of the teacher escaping things, and people are in incredibly toxic environments. And so for me, I just feel lucky that I like teaching. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of the same old thing, and I don't have to deal with horrific colleagues or anything, or administrators or anything like that. It's just looking for a change is all. So I feel very lucky when I see some of the escaping teachers or escaping academics posts.
Understand that.
Yeah, when I read some of those, I can't imagine how they're even going back this year. Like there's stuff that people are talking about, and my situation wasn't nearly like that. Like mine sounds similar to yours about just wanting to do something new and ready to take on new challenges because I've just been doing it for a long time. But oh man, my heart goes out to them. Some of my former colleagues are in a worse position than I was in, when I left, with a lot of changes going on at school. But wow, I don't want to be like, oh, I got out, but I'm unemployed. So, there's that.
Well, Steve is telling us to move to Australia because, what is that? 40%.
Oh, did I type it Austria? I should maybe again. I've got to lay off this stuff.
No, you said Australia.
Oh, good.
You use koalas as a selling point.
Well, it should be, or quokkas. We've got quokkas, these little smiling little rodents that like they've got this really obnoxious smile on their face. You just want to. No, the exchange rate's super good for you guys at the moment. You come over here, you got 40% more money to spend.
There you go, guys. What are we doing?
You guys have an awesome visa program too.
I think we're friends. I think our countries are buddies. So I think that works for you. I think that works in your favor.
Philip has a question. Philip, what's your question? Oh, you're on mute.
Mute or?
There.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay. I have a question, just general to everybody. If they have an opinion about the learning experience design versus instructional design, and then maybe Sharon, if you know any learning experience designers.
Everyone I work with is called an instructional designer within
It's
the
a-
higher ed space. Other people?
It's a trap. Yeah, it's a trap. It's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. So when I look at it, it's just instructional design is not pretty anymore. It's not cool. It's not cute. It's not cool. And it also has to do with the merging of UX, UI into learning design. So now what people want to be able to be seen as is like, I want to get into ed tech. I want to be seen as a learner experience person. So yeah, LX is now the cute catch cry. But if someone's applying for a LX position, I expect them to be grounded in ID. That's my reality take on it.
I'm going to put into the chat a presentation that I gave with the theory side of it, the academic side of like what people say learning design, how that came about, and instructional design in case you're interested. But I think it's just a really academic point that maybe not reflected actually within the business world. So, last questions. We have a couple minutes.
I think this would benefit anyone, but especially those who return to the classroom and now have so much less time to dedicate to this process. Is there advice for like what to prioritize if you've already done like some of those steps through the summer, now where to prioritize?
I would, if it were me, I would start by figuring out what kind of job you're interested in, because there's a variety that's available within the field of learning and development. I would figure out what is it that you really want to do. You don't have to remake yourself in the fashion of a job that someone has posted. Start with, is this something I really want to do? And then I would go from there. Other thoughts?
I would agree with you on that. I may or may not have used a lot of my sick days at the end of the year to help in that transition phase. And it was an extra day of work. Like, so that was my full day of work to make that transition and make things happen for myself. I would say if I would prioritize in any kind of order, your resume is your gateway to get your interviews. Your portfolio is really what they're going to take a look at. So making sure those two things are on point and knowing what you want and having confidence in what you want and displaying that to somebody else is a key as well. I mean, I said in my breakout room, but making the networking connections in the interview process and making it more of a conversational type of situation than here's my question, here's my answer. I know that benefited me in the long run. I threw caution to the wind. It was like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I can bring to your company.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know it, I'll learn it and I'll find a way. So
Love it.
The skill set that I brought, I really hit home with a lot of my interview questions in that fashion.
Nice. All right, guys, I think that brings us right to 8 o'clock. So I want to thank again Aaron Rendos and Steve Corney for being here and chatting with us and answering some of our questions that we have about getting into the field of instructional design and learning design. I really hope that I see you again in October. Hopefully it will be a much more boring one for me. I am definitely looking forward to that. I'll see you all then, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight.